What is going on, everybody? GoofyRhexxi here, and hope everybody is doing well. And welcome, guys, to the weekly headliner update, week number 62. Now, if you're new to the weekly headliner, this is where we discuss what is upcoming in the week in Marvel Strike Force, and then we recap the important topics from the previous week as well. Now, we got some pretty important blitzes that we're going to be talking about this week. We're going to go over those really quickly here. Make sure you can get yourself set up and ready for the week that's coming. We also are going to talk about the Morbius event. Going to go over the details, what to prep for, and then also talk about Dark Hunters as a whole. Question out there right now is, are they a shelvable team? We're going to talk about that here in this video. We also did get 2 new character introductions for the Darkhold team. We know about Wong. We also know about Doctor Strange Heartless. I'm going to talk about my overall thoughts on the team so far, how impactful they're going to be, and why this team potentially might be too OP, but still look like a little bit of fun here in the game. And then also the Envoy Call. We had an Envoy Call. Some of the CCs have talked about it already. We had one last week, Thursday. I can't really share exactly what we discussed here, but I'm going to give you my overall feel and thoughts towards that call and what potentially that might mean for the future here in Marvel Strike Force. But we got that, guys, and so much more to talk about on the weekly headliner update. And we're going to start right now. All right, y'all, welcome back. And like I said, we do have a lot of stuff to cover here in this video. So let's get right into the first topic, which is going to be our blitzes for this week. So the characters that we're going to be blitzing for are going to be Kestrel. That's going to be tonight. She was the Cosmic Poll winner. So that's the reason why her blitz is tonight. And then we also have Maria Hill. Her blitz is going to be on Thursday. So in terms of numbers, if you're kind of pushing for, like, looking at predictions here, this is the last blitz that we had. This was for Moondragon. The prediction numbers were 70 million for the top 1 to 100, 55. You can see what the numbers are moving down. 55 million for top 1%, top 2 to 3%, 38 million, so on and so forth. I actually landed in the 11 to 20% range, and I think I only had maybe like 11 million or 12 million in blitz. So numbers were a little bit off here for 1 to 100. There was actually 65 million was a cutoff there. So I do think numbers are probably going to be in the same range. A lot of players do have, or the top end players do have shards for Kestrel already, probably already have her maxed out. Similar as well with Maria. So I think more so the numbers probably will be in the same boat, in the same range. There's also going to be no event that I remember that's going to be active right now where you need to blitz to be able to get any sort of rewards here. So therefore, I think you're ultimately going to be fine. But prediction numbers for both of those characters will go out on their respective days. Today for Kestrel, and then also on Thursday for Maria Hill as well. Now, in regards to something else that's probably a little bit more important that you care about, we do have a new character event this week, which is going to be for Morbius, the Living Vampire event. Now, this is going to start on Thursday. One of the biggest news, I think, with this entire event is the fact that there was no leaderboards mentioned, right? So throughout this entire blog post, no leaderboards were mentioned for Morbius. And I remember in a previous data mine, if you guys remember, that there was leaderboards mentioned for that Morbius event. So that's a good thing that they're looking into stuff like that. That's kind of a key. That's, once again, feedback from you guys. Obviously, them seeing what was going on. I think that's in my opinion, that's a good positive trend if they continue to keep going in that direction here. But this event is a lot because there's 4 different milestones to pay attention to. There is going to be this Mystic Assassin's Orb that's going to feature characters that have where you can get character shards for characters that have the Mystic Spirit Slayer trait. You can actually filter out your roster right now. So there's a Spirit Slayer tag, and then if you go click on that Mystic tag, so Mystic Spirit Slayer characters, these are the characters that are going to be available in that orb. Now, I don't know if Cloak is going to be in that orb. It would be nice if he is. I would like for that to be true. There's Elsa, there's Ghost Rider if you're targeting Dark Hunter characters. Mordo, who also just recently got that rework. Dr. Voodoo is not going to be in that orb. I would be surprised if he is in that orb. If he is, that's great. But being that he has his event campaign going on right now, not that he's going to be there, but what we're probably expecting though is that Morbius is most likely going to be in that orb, because that's kind of the whole goal of this event, right? Is to be able to grab some shards for Morbius here. But let's talk about the milestones that you're going to have to go through. So the first one is going to be Fangs Out. That's going to be starting on Thursday. So you spend your the way that you get points is by spending campaign energy. not your ISO campaign energy, and then also battling in raid. So you earn points that way. That will give you these Mystic Assassin Orb fragments. And then after that, after this 4-day milestone is done, then they also have this Flesh and Blood milestone. So after Fangs out, you earn points on another 4-day milestone. It's going to be another 4-day where you can earn Mystic Assassin Orb fragments by doing blitzes. So you can blitz with any character and get points. You can also blitz with any Mystic Spirit Slayer characters, and we already showed who those characters were, but the caveat is that they have to be at a minimum of 5 stars. So if you're saying, hey, I'm blitzing with these Mystic Spirit Slayer characters and none of them have this, I'm not getting extra points for it, just keep in mind that you need them to be at 5 stars. Maybe you don't have them at 5 stars, and that's the reason why that is the case. You can also earn additional points by battling an alliance war with Dark Hunter characters. So this one may be tough for some players, because I know myself personally, I'm kind of shelving Dark Hunters right now. They're only at 71 in gear tier 12, which means that they cannot do anything in my wars, because it's basically G14 or bust when it comes to war characters or endgame content anymore, right? So I'm depending on the points that you can get for this. Maybe you throw a matchup, right? Because it says just battling. This is so that you have to win the matchup. So maybe just throw in a battle where you go with your Dark Hunter characters. They lose. That probably, depending on the points, it might make sense to do that. And then also you can spend some power cores as well. So this is actually a decent thing, because you will catch the tail end of Dr. Voodoo's event. I think based on the math, there's a 10-day timer right now on Dr. Voodoo's event. So that's gonna end, I believe, it's gonna end on the Thursday, I believe. So this milestone should start on the 21st, I believe. Yeah. So on the 17th is where you're gonna get this Fangs Out milestone, right? Which is gonna be here. If it's gonna be a 4-day milestone, it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4. That's gonna end on Monday. The Flesh and Blood milestone should start at that same time. So you'll be able to catch. Yeah, you'll be able to catch the tail end of the Dr. Voodoo event. So if you're spending extra cores for that event, then at least that will count towards this Flesh and Blood milestone. And then you also have the Living Vampire milestone. This is where you're going to be able to open up your Mystic Assassin Orbs to drink a ports towards an 8-day milestone that rewards Morbius shards. So don't know, this is curious. They might actually just throw the shards in the milestones and not throw the shards in the Mystic Assassin Orbs. We don't know yet, so we're gonna have to see. But you can also earn gear, trading modules, and then more. And then this last milestone here, Sting Hungry for rewards, battling Arena to earn points towards a daily web exclusive milestone. So I'm assuming this is gonna be on the web store that runs for 8 straight days and reward Mystic Assassin Orb fragments again. So once again, they're kind of trying to push players towards that web store once again, right? To make sure that you're logging in and using it. Limited offers will also be available on the web for Mystic Assassin Orb fragments and reward shards for Mystic Spirit Slayer characters. And then be on the lookout for the following bonus events. So there's going to be some bonus events for energy, bonus events for the raid frenzy, bonus event as well for doing some blitzes. I also want to say this too, your web milestone. So if you're currently doing your web, you're logging into the store and you're getting these web milestones where you get every day where you do a blitz and you can get this extra campaign energy, the premium orbs and that stuff right there. Save these in your inbox. Don't claim them as of yet. Wait until the Morbius event starts on Thursday and then claim these rewards so that you can use that campaign energy towards that event. So overall, actually a pretty decent event. I'm glad that they got rid of the leaderboards. At least there's no mention of the leaderboards there. I'm hoping that they're just not omitting that information and that they're still going to go with the leaderboards. But yeah, this looks pretty good so far. I'm hoping that it's not going to be a spend heavy event. We're going to have to see exactly what that looks like. But right now, this looks okay. This looks better than what we've seen before. Just once again, I'm going to be curious to see how many shards you can actually gain for Morbius. Because he does need a lot of stars to really be effective in these Heroes for Hire matchups. So those are my thoughts. Quick look at this event here. Let's move on to the next topic. All right, since we're talking about Morbius, we might as well talk about the entire Dark Hunter team, right? This is some footage that I have behind me right here where I used them on the test server. I'm going to doing a punch across against Heroes for Hire. I have Hela on the team here. And I also have, like, after this, you're going to see some footage as well with them going against Young Avengers. Not a very high percentage matchup, that Young Avengers matchup. Probably wouldn't recommend that on a normal day. That's more of a, dang, I don't have anything else. I do have Dark Hunters though. Let me try them against Young Avengers, because honestly, it's not really a high percentage matchup, but they do pretty well against Heroes for Hire. My concern though is them being able to do punch-ups against Heroes for Hire. Ultimately, they kind of lack a little bit of sustain as an overall team. And although Voodoo does a pretty good job of keeping them alive, I'm just not a huge fan of them potentially being able to do some of the punch-ups that you're probably going to require them to do, right? Because if you're like me, some of you guys have probably higher matchups than me, right? I'm seeing 800, 850, 900 plus K Heroes for Hire teams. At the rate, the stars that I'm getting Dr. Voodoo at, maybe Morbius at, I'm not quite sure that they're going to be able to beat those teams. I'm just not entirely like, I mean, listen, I'm going to lose Ghost Rider here. And there are some times where Morbius gets a little dicey and I don't have Morbius available, and I have to go one-on-one with Dr. Voodoo versus like another character. Depends on how the matchup sometimes goes RNG wise, and this is just a punch across, right? So not quite sure how punch-ups will go. Young Avengers, like I said, not a very high percentage matchup. I think though that this team, like I said, is good. You're probably going to start to see the value for them though over time. Obviously, they're an option that you can use for the Pestilence event, for Morgan if you choose to go in that direction. Some of us though are most likely saving our resources. I think this team probably just came out at a bad time because there's going to be a new Darkhold team that's going to be released, and a lot of us are just making business decisions, right, to not invest into this team right now or shelve this team and wait until you get your Darkhold team and invest into Web Warriors a little bit more so that we can get through the Pestilence event at the higher difficulty, so that we can then get our Morgan. And then after we're done with our Morgan, then we might go into Dark Hunters. But I do think that the value of this team will come over time. Once they start to release some other teams here and you can start using them more reliably against Heroes for Hire because you've been able to build them up, able to get some more resources on them, then you'll ultimately be fine. Also, I think too as well that, to be fair, I think that there's going to be a fifth character that's going to be added to this team at some point in time as well, right? We saw this post on Facebook early this week where the author shared a Blade picture. Then we also saw in the Morbius character review video from their YouTube, we saw another photo here, which this looks like Blade. So I think most likely this team probably just hasn't reached their final form as of yet. And Blade probably could be the character that gets added to this team, could even be next patch, that may complete this team and make them a little bit more feasible against those matchups. So we don't know, right? We don't know. I think a lot of us expected that Blade would have been coming to this game for quite some time. We know about the Midnight Suns team. They call them Dark Hunters instead. But we know about the Midnight Suns team that had Dr. Voodoo, that had Elsa Bloodstone, that had Ghost Rider on it, that had Doctor Strange, that had Blade, right? We know about all these characters. So them introducing this Dark Hunter team without Blade didn't really seem to feel right, but maybe at some point in time, we're going to be getting that as well. So looking forward to that. Maybe that's the direction that they're going with this team. And maybe they might be worth the investment. Well, for right now, I'm kind of going to hold off on Darkhold because Darkhold is probably going to be a little bit more usable in more game modes, and I can use my Web Warriors for that Pestilence event. So that's kind of the direction that I'm going right now. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. But let's talk about the next topic. All right, guys, so we got some more information here on this Darkhold team, and I'm telling you, this team just looks so insane right now. Maybe I'm like a little concerned about them being a little too OP. Maybe I'm the only one that's concerned about it, but Morgan's kit was like amazing, right? And there's nothing like crazy that probably maybe sticks out about maybe Wong's kit per se. There's a couple things there, but just the addition to Doctor Strange, his ults right now looks way too OP for me. And maybe I'm thinking about, I remember like Shang-Chi's ult where like you saw the ult and then he did, and you're like, oh, okay, whatever. And then he did his ult and game, you were like, holy crap balls. Did he just delete an entire team? Yeah, like I'm concerned about Doctor Strange also being able to do the same thing. It's going to be fun when I do it. Like, to be fair, like I'm going to have fun doing it myself, but I'm a little concerned about what that will do to a matchup here. Let's go through a quick CDLR or quick like rundown here of Doctor Strange and and what we're talking about here. So Doctor Strange, Heartless is what he's going to be calling the game. This needs an AKA, like 100%. There's no way I'm calling him Doctor Strange Heartless. You can miss me with that. Somebody got to fix this, right? DSH. So let's is that good? Let's figure it out. Let's figure something out and make it stick. All right. But he gives a barrier to his Darkhold allies. Remember they have kind of like this weird mechanic where the barrier actually goes over the cap. So it's not just these usually capped at 30%, so they can actually go to 60%. So that's a lot of sustain on the team, right? He can also copy and clear positive effects. And the reason why this is dangerous, the copying and clearing positive effects, is because they already spawn with a few good positive effects, but his ult can do additional damage based on not just the positive effects, but then also the negative effects, not just on him, but then also on the primary target as well. So this is the way that his ultimate reads. It's attack all enemies for 300% damage plus 50% additional damage per positive and negative effect on self and the primary target. I just feel like that's super OP, right? He's a blaster, so he's in a duel. Blasters typically tend to do a lot of damage. I'm a little concerned that his ult may be a little too overtuned already, but we're gonna have to see what the stats look like in the game. I'm sure that they regulate this somehow, right? We'll see what happens, guys. But he also does have additional crit damage and crit chance, 50% additional crit chance and crit damage as well in his kit. And you also give that to his Darkhold allies as well. So just insanity within itself. Wong now, first of all, his name is Wong, and he also does piercing damage. Do with that what you may. I know I'm a child, whatever, do with that what you may, but he's a protector. He is a hero character. Also, Doctor Strange Heartless is a villain character, if I didn't mention that as well. But yeah, I mean, he has some pretty interesting mechanics too. He can also barrier himself, so there's an additional barrier again. He gains a 2-turn taunt. He can also gain safeguard. So if Doctor Strange Heartless or Doctor Strange are an ally, he can gain 1 safeguard up to a maximum of 2. This is not stackable though, so because remember, Morgan will also spawn and give everybody safeguard. So if he loses a safeguard, then he can get an additional 1 back with his ultimate ability, which is actually a 10 for 10. So he's going to be able to do that once a match, right? But he also has a 2-turn defense up that he gives not just to himself, but also all Darkhold allies, where they will also have safeguard, so you can clear that defense up as well. And then he also there's an attack here, a special ability where he can ignore defense up. So kind of reminds me of like Ultron, right? Like with Ultron, with his ult, he could, whenever he ulted, if the character had defense up, he would double his offensive attack. So that essentially would negate the defense up. He's just completely ignoring defense up. So if he has offense up, it's gonna be crazy, right? So curious though, stats are gonna dictate that. We'll see how much damage he actually does. And then also he's able to transfer negative effects and then clear negative effects clear negative effects off himself as well. And he can also copy and clear positive effects too. So those are some interesting things that I definitely saw with their kits that are going to make them interesting. Some of the highlights I would say though for this team, definitely the barrier, an increased barrier to that 60%. It's definitely going to give them a high sustain as an overall team, right? That's going to be really crazy to process and to see just how much harder it's going to be to be able to kind of mow them down. And they're gaining barrier at different times in a matchup too. So it's a spawn barrier, but then there's additional barrier that they can also gain as well throughout the matchup. The copying of positive effects. So think about this, right? They are able themselves right now, I may be missing one, but they can give themselves safeguard, speed up, immunity, defense up, right? They can then copy offense up, copy death proof, like, so they're just going to be a crazy impactful team the way it looks right now. We talked about the crit from Doctor Strange Heartless. There's an extra crit damage, extra crit chance that they get, so that increases their damage output. Trauma, Morgan gives trauma or can apply trauma to enemy controllers. So that's definitely a Cersei, counter. That is a Doom counter right there. She can clear immunity as well. They're clearing a lot of positive effects, which affects a lot of teams in this game right now. I think they're going to be really sensational against teams that specialize in having a lot of positive effects, right? So that's going to be something that's interesting to watch just in general in the game. And of course, them being able to land and clear some negative effects will also be interesting too. One concern I do have about this team are their long cooldowns. There's a lot of abilities here that are 10 out of 10 and 7 for 7. There's 4 out of 7. There's a lot of abilities that are really long cooldowns. So I think when I say I'm concerned about it, it's because I would like to be able to use them in some raid content. And when you're investing so high into certain characters like G15 gear, potentially maybe even in the future G16, although I think this team may be okay at G15 for now for a lot of players, I do think that there's a little bit of a concern that maybe you're not going to be able to use them in somewhere like raids, but arena is quite sufficient enough. You're probably going to be able to use them against a lot of other teams on war offense as well. So you're probably going to be okay with getting the return on investment that you want from this team anyways, but it's just a little bit of a concern. And also you could probably maybe plug and play maybe one or two of the characters if they're that good outside of the team, if they're plug and play with maybe Deathpool and in some of the raid content, like your Doom raids, maybe using Deathpool and the Eternals, and maybe using one or two of the Darkhold allies, or using 4 Darkhold with Deathpool, whatever. I'm just saying that there are ways to give them some ability energy as well in raid content, but also this team is missing a character that may also give them a battery, be a battery for them as well. So we don't know. We're gonna have to see kind of how that pans out and how that plays out. This I wrote down, arena it was only mentioned once in the kit, and that was really from Morgan's kit, where she gives them an additional that barrier in arena. Here's the thing, I mean, that's fine, right? Like that makes them more usable outside of that. I just thought it was something interesting to mention because that's something that definitely was a highlight for me. And then this one, Horde Mystic Gear. I think right now, this is the team to wait to invest into. They're an arena team that's going to be more impactful than probably investing into Dark Hunter. I would probably go in this direction. Build up your web warriors, build them up so that you can get through the Pestilence campaign, Pestilence event for Morgan to unlock her. I definitely would hoard your Mystic Gear right now. Let's see if that's what I'm doing. Unless you have an abundance of it, I'm hoarding my Mystic Gear right now to invest into this team, because this team is going to be a lot more impactful for me throughout the game. So therefore, that's kind of the direction that I'm going with them. So let me know your thoughts, guys, on this Darkhold team right now. There's one more character to be revealed. We still don't know the kit yet for Scarlet Witch. So curious to see how much more powerful this team might be. And maybe they're also going to be getting that battery that we talked about. Or maybe they shouldn't get a battery, because ultimately they're just going to be way too powerful anyways. But they look like they're going to be a fun team. If you have them, not quite sure if it's going to be fun you facing them, how realistic. But let's talk about that on some other time here. We got some other topics to talk about. Let's talk about that next. All right, guys. So wanted to kind of just wrap up here and talk about this. Kind of just wrap up and talk about this last topic, which was the Envoy call that we had last week Thursday. So overall, I thought it was a good call. I left cautiously optimistic. I know some CCs have already talked about some of the information already, so I really won't go into like too much in-depth detail. Some of the information I can't share anyways, or most of it I can't really share anyways because it's under NDA. But overall, I left cautiously optimistic. There were some topics that were discussed. Rank leaderboards were discussed. There was the topics about communication. We talked about things like sharing, like information sharing in regards to just like the feedback that they get. And then we also talked about, like really briefly, I'll talk about something about Morgan as well. So listen, ranked leaderboards is something that they are aware of. They understand that it's frustrating for the community. They are taking steps to make sure that something like this does not happen again. But I think this is my feeling. My feeling on this is that they're most likely not going to be able to take care of it as swiftly as maybe some of us desire. I think that there is some capacity that they lack to be able, and this sounds bad to say it that way. I don't mean it like in a like facetious way. I just mean that there's like they're overall kind of there's some limitations, right? And being able to take care of it as quickly and as swiftly as we maybe desire. So one of the recommendations that we made was, how about just not doing them again? They did kind of say that that's something that they are thinking about, doing. And so no guarantees, but that is something that they're definitely watching. And I think it's kind of telling that there was a data mine for leaderboards for Morbius before, and now there is no leaderboard, at least not mentioned in the blog post, for Morbius. So I think that they probably are listening where that is concerned. Cautiously optimistic about that, but like I said, it is something that they have the capacity to really be able to fully handle it as fast. Like they will, I think that they will, but I just don't think that they're going to be able to handle it as quickly as maybe we would desire. Maybe I got that wrong. Maybe I got the wrong sense, but those are just my thoughts on that. We also talked about communication. One of the things that I think drives us crazy right now is communication and not being able to get information as quickly as we're supposed to in like on the topic of bugs, right? Or topic of issues that are happening in the game. Like there just not being enough communication and quick enough responses back from them. That's something that we talked about at length, about how can we be more efficient in our bug reporting? Where can players know what bugs are actually, or what things are actually working on that needs to be fixed, right? Even if it's a situation where it's like that will be fixed next patch. Like at least there being some communication on that's something that's going to be happening, instead of something happening and then we have to wait 4, 5, 6, 7 days in order for us to be able to get that information back, especially when it's something that impacts gameplay. It's really frustrating that we're not getting that sort of feedback. And of course you guys share that stuff with us and then we share that stuff with them. That becomes really, really, really frustrating. So that's something that we talked about then with that length. Now that's something that they are looking to improve. And I think that there could be a fix to that coming up soon, but that's something that was definitely discussed as well. We also talked about this too, and how important it is for you guys to share information. Now, I think some people probably get the wrong sense of who we are as envoys. I think some people do kind of have the idea that we're like shills for Marvel Strike Force. Honestly, no, we're players first. That's who we are. And a lot of the information that we share with them is information that you guys share with us. Your frustrations, the issues that you guys are having, your thoughts on the game, things that could improve it. A lot of the information that is shared with them is information that you guys share with us. I think that's one of the reasons why we saw Lavelle get a Cree tag, right? That's one of the reasons we've seen a lot of changes happen in the game that ultimately you guys were the ones that really kind of drove that change. We share the information with them, but you guys drove that change ultimately. So that's who we are. We're your mouthpiece. We're not their mouthpiece. We're your mouthpiece. So I want you guys to understand that. But they talked about the importance of sharing information and how important and how impactful it is for you guys to be able to continue to share. So keep writing the posts on Reddit. Keep writing in the Discord. There's literally a dev section or dev question section in my Discord where if you guys have any questions about anything, I will share that with them. I will always make sure to share that with them. I'm a little bit more private. I don't really place things out open in the chat. I usually kind of like private message. That's just kind of like my style. I've always been like that. I'm just a private person in general. But I will always share your information to make sure, because like I said, at the end of the day, I am your advocate. We are your advocates. So please continue to share information. And that's something that they actually like, is that you guys, because you guys are passionate about the game. You play the game. So that's something that they did mention that they would like for you guys to continue to do. Last thing for me, a little bit more exciting, I think. So I can't really share too much information, but I think that most players will be excited about Morgan and just how you are able to get her. That's the last thing that I would say. I'm not going to say anything else more than that. That's it. I'm just saying that there's some good things coming where that is concerned. I think, like I said, most players will be happy about how that goes down. And like I said, that's all I'm gonna say about that. But listen, guys, if you guys have everything else to talk about or have any other topics that probably I forgot to discuss here in the video, let me know. We'll be happy to kind of go through that here. Leave it in the comments. If you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel here. Look at the links that are down below. Join my Discord. Follow me on Twitch, where I stream Marvel Strike Force content on a weekly basis. Check out my Patreon. All those things are down below, guys. Much appreciated. Thank you guys always for your support. Until next time, y'all be blessed. Y'all be safe.